Hi again then guys, and welcome to the 94th episode of B-Road Ballers, but this one is a very significant one because this, along with some other videos from here on out on the channel, are going to be the first forays into Gran Turismo 2 videos on the channel. That's what that teaser was about last week. Some of you recognise that correctly based on the music in the teaser, and this is what it is, Gran Turismo 2 content which I've wanted to do for some time. I wanted the Renault Espace F1 to be the first video, but the schedule doesn't really allow for that, so I've had to hold off just for a second, and we'll get to it in good time. Now, this initial episode is, of course, in the hot hatch category of B-Road Ballers. Now, this vehicle is no longer featured on Gran Turismo. It's a car which is in the used dealership on Gran Turismo 2, the Nissan Micra Super Turbo. And who would have thought the first Gran Turismo 2 video that we do would be for a Micra? And that's one of the great things about this car, because when you hear the name Micra, you don't necessarily think of performance. It's not a car which is really known for that. That being said though, there are certain versions of the Micra which have very impressive performance levels. And this is one of the best examples of a performance vehicle within the Micra lineup. Now on GT6 we do have some performance Micras. Gran Turismo in general has had some, the MMR Cup car, the Micra 12SR or 12SR, however you pronounce it, and a couple of others as well. And the most notable one that we currently have is the March G. That is a fantastic sleeper car and an incredible track weapon. So the question is, can this vehicle from way back in Gran Turismo's past at least come close to the magic that some Micras can deliver? Well, what do you actually get from the car? The engine is a 1 litre, a 930cc, and interestingly, as the name suggests, this is one of the relatively few vehicles, Japanese or otherwise, that is both supercharged and turbocharged. And in fact, it was the first Japanese car ever to be that way. That's an interesting way of approaching performance. So what kind of benefits does it give you? Well, one of the primary ones is, despite the fact that the car is from 1989, and typically a hatchback from back then wouldn't necessarily have incredible power by today's standards, this one still does, because that 1 litre super turbocharged engine actually puts out better numbers than something like a modern day Fiat Panda 100 HP. That may not sound amazing, but when it does start to get amazing is when you tune it up, because fully tuned on Gran Turismo 2 this car puts out 214 horsepower and 174 pound-feet of torque. When you combine that with a very, very lightweight 708 kilo front-wheel drive chassis and the handling manners of essentially a homologation special in the way of something like a Delta or an Audi Quattro, albeit with front-wheel drive of course, and you've potentially got yourself something of a track weapon. Now, as I mentioned, you cannot buy this car in the normal Nissan dealership. You have to occasionally wait for the car to come up in the used car section, but you can buy this car very early on in the game, because for one thing it's very affordable. If memory serves, I think it was around 5 or 6 grand to buy, and you can buy it very early on, not just money wise, but because it appears in the used car dealership as soon as you start the game, basically. And at the start of the game, it's not necessarily the best car to choose, but it's a very good one. I personally opted to buy this car to start my Gran Turismo career, and it's a good one to go with. It's fast straight out of the box, and although it won't dominate every race, certainly without tuning, it does have tuning potential. The fact that it is as good and as quick as it is, with only 214 horsepower, means that it can be quite useful in power-restricted races, and we all know that there are plenty of those on Gran Turismo 2. The horsepower per tonne is over 300, and although it doesn't have a car class or car level as we have now on Gran Turismo, it is an incredible value for money hatchback. It's one of the relatively few pure hot hatches on Gran Turismo 2. Because if you think about it, the vast majority of hatchbacks on that game are not hot hatches, they're just everyday hot hatches. Now there are some full-on hot hatches like the Delta or the Nissan Pulsar GTIR, but of the relatively few that there are on there, This is a great example of one. So overall, if you do get the chance to pick up the Micra Super Turbo on GT2, it's dirt cheap and it's a lot of fun to drive. The handling on GT2 is comparable to how good I would say the Ford Focus RS is on Gran Turismo 6. It really is that level of machine. So overall, I personally would love to see this car return to Gran Turismo, although the chances of that are relatively slim, all things considered. Either way, it's a great throwback to hardcore hatchbacks from back in the day. But that's it overall for this particular episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.